Hazoor, the Quran talks about avoiding divining arrows and bones to predict the future.
Right.
Does this still apply to the modern day equivalent of palm reading?
Does the Quran apply to the modern days?
No.
No.
That
That is the first question.
Yes,
the
modern day equivalents of these practices, such as tarot reading, palm reading, and especially astrology, where we find it becoming more
there are
prevalent.
daily astrological programs on television by some so-called scholars and experts, and they are sheer nonsense. There is no truth in that. You can see them, reading horoscopes with reference to one's stars in a manner that each person who listens carefully would find that some of it applies to him, whether it is his star or not. So it's a very clever handling of the subject. It is certainly not based on any scientific knowledge which may lead to the future evidence, the future events, and may help to read the future. There is no such thing. The best they do is, those of palm readers I have come across many times before, at best what they do is, they are more like face readers than palm readers. They are more like personality readers than palm readers. And they are quite intuitive in that very clever faculty of reading characters. So, knowing the characters, they begin to build stories, apparently looking down at the lines of the hands. And I had once myself a very interesting experience with that, and I think which I have related earlier so many times, but maybe some people didn't hear, so let's share the same with them as well, the newcomers. Where at the University of London, way back in 1956, I was invited to an all-night party. In those days, it was very popular in the university to have an all-night party where people just chatted of this and that, and all sorts of boys and girls got together. And generally it was a custom to bring a girlfriend with you so that all come in couples. But it was not dancing party or anything. It was just intellectual talk and eating together and bringing some food. Everybody brought, or sometimes a host hosted the party entirely at her own or his own. So that was the atmosphere in which I was invited, and I told them that I don't have a girlfriend, but if you permit me, I have my cousin, Sayyid Kalimullah Shah, he's dead now. If you permit, I would bring him along. And as far as if you have at all any intention to hold dancing, etc., so I will not participate. So better you don't invite me in that case, because two odd men out of this would not seem fit. So they said, no, there is no such program. Well, it was just intellectual talk of this and that. It is going to be a very interesting all-night party. Bring your friend or cousin, and that will be that. So it was indeed. They kept the word. It was a very interesting night spent together on all subjects of interest of different people. Sometimes they spoke on ghosts, sometimes they spoke on their personal experiences, bizarre experiences of this and that. Sometimes philosophical discussions ensued, sometimes deep psychological discussions on human nature and with reference to the previous scholars' achievements. It was a very well spent time anyway. During those discussions, the subject of palm reading came up. So I told them exactly what I have told you. I said, I do not believe that anybody can read from the lines of the hand anything which would happen to him or her in future. Because it is so naive to believe that a child is born and the lines are created when the hands are, like this. fist like a fist clenched together, and there somebody is writing the lines of what would happen to the child. It's all sheer absurdity. I don't know why you believe, because when you don't believe in serious things in religion, generally you begin to believe in superstitions. So that is what you are. So I said, yet I know many a time they prove right. They prove right because they are good character readers, and only those succeed who are good character readers. And they apparently look at the hand, but they know what sort of man they're dealing with, and they build their prediction of future on what they see in the present. This is not the knowledge of the absent; it is knowledge of the present which leads them to guess how it would happen in future. So they took me on for my word. They said, "Do you believe in that?" I said, I do." "All right, we show you our hands and start reading." Not according to the lines, but according to your theory of character reading. So although most of them were just new to me, I knew the hosts and a few friends from University of London, but otherwise they had come from as far as Cambridge, Oxford, etc., etc. So I said, yes, I take it up. And one of the palms I read was that of a person, I think his name was Ian something, Kolb or some other name was with it. But later on he ended up as a director of BBC. So I'll tell you a very interesting thing which happened. So he was with a strange looking girl who was not intellectual, but physically attractive to him, but not intellectual at all. So he extended his palm that, "Read my palm." I said that you will, after so many other things, that you will get married soon, within a year or so, and you will only remain happy for a very little period afterwards. Then you will feel very uneasy about things. The life will gradually turn into misery for you. And then when you reach the age of 50, 55, thereabout, then you will be relieved at last. And things will turn better for you, it will be good end. When I came here in 1958, from 56, no, 78, from 56 to 78, how many years?
20.
Huh?
22 years.
22 years. 56 to 78, 22 years had passed. So his age was about the same age as I had predicted. I stayed with Gauri Sahib. And once when I returned home, Gauri Sahib told me that somebody by the name of Ian something is speaking from BBC, and he wants very much to talk to you because he heard of your arrival here in London from a common friend whom you had informed. So I remembered the name, but I couldn't know why this urgency. So unfortunately, we were mostly out when his telephones came. At last, we were connected. So first, immediately he introduced himself to be that man who met you there at that party. And he said, "Tell me, how on earth could you know my future when you denied the truth of palm reading, but you were reading my palm and you told me exactly as things happened later on." I said, that was to prove that it is not palm reading, but it is character reading. And he said, "But how on earth could you say 51, 55? No, I don't remember, but it was almost the same year when something happened which relieved him. How could you say that much, that clearly?" I said, "I don't know what has relieved you of this misery of living with a wife who was not a natural companion to you. By talking to you, within a few minutes, I knew you were a very intellectual person and a very attractive character, very mild and gentle and pleasing, very intellectual, very pleasing. And that girl was just, something like just a beautiful animal, no more." So and you had fallen for her. So I knew you were going to marry her, and the life from then on, after a few months or maybe a year, is going to turn out to be a miserable life for you. So later on, I thought by the time of 50, 52, 55, maybe you'll get old enough to settle in peace, you know. To say, all right, but what life is past. He said, that is the bit where the things happened, but differently. He said, at last I divorced her. And that happened to be the year which I had mentioned. So that is why he was really thinking that actually there was something in the hand as well. So I said, no, not at all. It was just a guesswork of my experience of people who get old and they settle down. Even if in the youth they have been fighting out all their life, ultimately they settle down and they say, okay, leave it as we are, okay. So he had a good laugh. He said, well, this has happened exactly as you had said. Unfortunately, he's died now. Otherwise, I would have invited him to come and meet us, and also he would come to the program. But somebody told me he is dead. He ended up as a director of BBC, quite high up. Very educated, well-educated person, and very fine person indeed. So that is the answer to your hand reading bit.
Thank you very much.
Okay?
Yes.